But here we go, Kit Cummings.
All right. What's up, everybody? It's great to see you guys again. Um, Let me ask you or ask John, is John Basilio, I think, was going to be trying to join us. John, you out there, bro? Not yet? Cool. I want to thank you guys for how you took care of them, man. It was so great because for the last couple of months, man, John's schedule has been really crazy and, been going through things. I think that he shared some things about just fighting the good fight. And it kind of disconnected us a bit. We got out of our routine, which is, hey, we get on Zoom each week and we just, we go deep and it's great. And we just been trying to do it, but it's catching, as you can. And so yesterday when we got on there, he was like shining, man. And he told about his trip and about you guys, and just he came back so renewed. And it was like, dude, man, you're back. And all of us go through those times, but I was so happy. But I also told him, and this was real, I said, bro, I don't do as well spiritually when we're not connected. And it was a very real thing. It wasn't like a joke. I'm like, I'm serious, bro. I mean, that's how important our relationship is. And I hope you have somebody like that. I want you to. And if not, put that on your prayer list. God, bring somebody into my life that's going to be my ride or die, that I need to talk to. And not because somebody tells me I'm a partner with somebody. I'm talking about a true friend. And watch what God does. And then just watch him show up. I mean, that's the cool thing about this whole deal, is you don't got to worry about the how and the when and the who and all that kind of stuff. It's just your desires. And if your desires align with his, and don't even overthink that. Don't even worry about it. Let him sort them out. This is my opinion. Your desires, just present them before him and just go ahead and jump out there. And then you get to go and just watch, and then just, I mean, it becomes alive. Everything kind of black and white turns to color, and you start seeing God in little signs and conversations or coincidences, which there aren't any. And you'll connect with somebody. It's like, dude, I was just talking about that. And then I met this dude. It's like, that's not coincidental. That's like real. I mean, the Holy Spirit's very, very real. And so I know Ruben and I have been having some cool talks about that, about when the Spirit gets involved, it's a little scary. Because he's not in a box. He don't live in a box. And he's always new. Okay. It don't matter what happened yesterday. He is fresh, new today, and he's creative. And so when you jump on the ride with him, invite him in, and then start trusting him and letting him guide you, you're going to get out of your comfort zone. But that's the only way we grow. There's going to be some pain involved, because with pain, there's change. If, your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. It's like, that's the whole deal with religion, is it's got to be real. And we got to step out. We got to get outside of the church, outside of the prayer closet, and put ourselves in situations where it's just outside of our comfort zone, and then watch what God does. Because I think then our walk has become real. And I think he likes it when we get real. You guys have shared that about, you encouraged me a lot, and John a lot, man, it's so real. It's like, yeah, because God loves real. He don't want to have the same talk every dang day. He knows everything before it comes out. Jesus said that. Don't go on babbling. Don't worry about that. Be real with him. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what this is. And the steps, I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit about, how they work. But I wanted to share I had a miracle prayer, and I just want to do this to encourage you, not to, this is to encourage you, but this is my latest one. And I want you to see the circles. See the circles? It's so much fun when you get to circle one, and then you go to the back of my book, and I got a whole nother list of them, but look at all the circles, man. You know how much that encourages me? It's gotten to be when I write it in this book, it's sacred. And I'm like, I expect it. And I think the expectation of things is the faith. It's being sure of what we hope for. That's I expect it. Where is it? And we're shocked when it doesn't show up. I think that enthuses God. So anyway, this is a method to get you out of that comfort zone. And I was telling Ruben, and I were talking about this too. it's not a shocker that the pandemic and then the social unrest and a really ugly election and all the things that have gone through politically, that we're beat up. But a lot of us have come out of that. And I think we're still, understandably, but it's time to get on out of this funk, because a lot of people got soft spiritually, during the quarantine. And we never, the human since 1918, it never happened. Okay. So nobody in 100 years has gone through what we just went through. And so jacked us up a little bit. This is how you get your edge back. And you might not have had an edge for a long time. This is how you get your fire back, is to get out, and do it. And so all of this stuff that I share about with my ministry, and I want to share about what happened today because it was significant. It's a result of this process. Everything that God has allowed me to create or build or discover or write or whatever is a result of this process. I believe in it so much. It's made my relationship with him so much more real and authentic. It's helped me understand that my weakness is his power, not be afraid, to go ahead and, there's just so many things that I'm going to get to share, but, and I've got another miracle showing up tomorrow. So those are so much fun. You get in there in the morning and you go through and just circle it and go, yes. And then you start believing in the next one. And, I've been making, I got specific and I said, I want to get into the Department of Juvenile Justice. The adult prisons won't work with me right now, got beef with the commissioner. And so I want to work with the kids anyway. You don't worry about the how and the when and the who. It's the what. And it's a righteous desire. I want to help kids that are in these prisons. They need help, and ain't a lot of people going in there. And so there's the desire. You put it down and then you just play the game. And I don't mean that's trivial. Life is a game. You figure out how it works. There's universal laws and principles that are always in motion. Light always travels at 186,000 miles a second, always. Speed limit of light in the universe. All right, you can count on that. Gravity is so precise and sensitive, and it's always works. We don't float and we don't get crushed. These are laws you can really, and he said, it's more blessed to give, and whatever we give, we get back. These are things you can trust, you know what I'm saying? And so we start operating in those things. And so what happens? I get invited to be on a Georgia House of Representatives study committee on youth gangs and violence prevention. I was honored. We toured around the state, had these press conferences, and we studied this problem to pass a bill, an anti-gang bill, which we did. But anyway, the guy that was always sitting right next to me at those panels, he couldn't help but become my friend. He was sitting by me all the time. And he's the commissioner of the Department of Juvenile Justice. And so he reports to the governor, and we got very cool. And he read one of my books. We put this deal together. Now I'm contracted with the state. He wants me to go into their worst prison. I'm fired up. I start. But then, man, it was just like, boom, boom, boom. This is hard. This ministry is a really tough one. And every time we'd make a little progress, boom, we get set back. And I was like, come on now. This is supposed to, everything's working. Where's the miracle? We need to see. I want to see this prison change. And we just, man, there were threats. And then there was, they're tearing, some of these kids start tearing up my books and spitting on them. And it was just like, dang, we're going backwards. But what it made me do is I got to have another answer. And so now I'm writing down, man, that I want to develop this youth peace council, but there's no way we're ready for that. But then I decide, man, I just felt like the Spirit was telling me, make that move. And so I went to the warden. I got people to pray about it. And I went and I said, I think we need to establish this peace council. And he said, yes. Boom, real quick. And we put this little group together and we started this thing. And I'll get to the end of this little thing. And then it was like, I want the commissioner to come and sit in our circle with these boys, it never has happened. Not like this. We're talking about real dialogue, the things that they got beef about and things. But I went down there on Monday and we spent almost 2 hours preparing for this meeting with the commissioner that we had today. And those boys that I'm telling you, they're unpredictable and they're impulsive and they're tough kids. Boy, look, most of them gangsters, but I love them so much. They did so good. I was so proud of them. They were respectful. They were real. They were honest. They listened. I mean, I was just blown away. But the commissioner is now like, wow. Commissioner told me that he wants to come back once a month and get with this group. I mean, you guys in this field, you don't understand that this stuff that I just told you is not like, oh yeah, it could be historic. We could do this at other prisons. So I want to tell you, think about the steps. I wrote them down. Man, I meditated on them. I didn't care how they showed up. Then when they started showing up, I hit obstacles. Those obstacles were the good thing because it made me push up the schedule. I wasn't keeping in step with the spirit. I thought I can't do that peace council for another 6 months. And he said, no, do it now. You need it now. And so then I made measurable moves. I can't say, please, please, please. And I don't bother to reach out to the commissioner. He ain't going to just all of a sudden show up. And so everything that you're really trying to bring about, whether it's a change in your heart, whether it's a miracle with a loved one, whether it's a job situation, financial, that is pressure, man. People that deal with true financial pressure, that it's exhausting. Okay, that's miracle territory, right? It could be struggles you're having with addiction. It could be anything, that is breaking your heart or is a heart dream. You write it down and get more specific. But then as you see signs, man, keep tweaking that thing. Keep talking to God about it. I had to drill deeper and deeper and deeper till today was the breakthrough. It took 6 months to get to it. Don't worry about how long it takes. Just trust that he's working for you behind the scenes. Tonight, 2 things I want to accomplish. One is I want to do the question. And I apologize for my technical difficulties when I was at the beach. That I just sucked last week. Uh-oh, is that a cuss word? Sorry, my bad. I need a little special asterisk by that one because I don't know. That one could be maybe not one. I'm not sure. But sorry, Ruben. All right. So this is last week. It was, do you want to get well? And I think that's an important question. Is don't just say, here's what I want. Why? You want to get well for real? Are you ready to pay the price? You ready to? I'll get you there, but it's going to be. I'm going to change you. I'm going to change you to get you there. You're not going to be the same person and get to the place you want to go. And so that was important. This week, there's a new question. And it comes out of Matthew 20, 29 to 34. As Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. 2 blind men were sitting by the roadside. And when they heard that Jesus was going by, they shouted, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. The crowd rebuked them and told them to be quiet. But they shouted all the louder, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus stopped and called them. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. Lord, they answered, we want our sight. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. Jesus seems to really care about sight. Because there's a lot of instances where he's drawn to people that have this particular need. I want to see. This whole game is about changing the way we see things, how we see him, how we see people, how we see obstacles, how we see failure, how we see the least of these, how I see myself, how I see my spouse. I want to change the things that I see. I'm missing it all, man. And so it's like Saul needed scales to fall from his eyes. So when Ananias touched him and all of a sudden he looked up and he's like, where have y'all been? And it's like his eyesight changed. All the brothers and sisters were out there, but he didn't see it right. And all of a sudden, boom, God gave him new eyes, baptized him. And then Paul went and followed the Spirit the rest of his life. But he was suffered. Don't ask for the Spirit if you're not ready to get a little bit uncomfortable, man. But shoot, would you rather be a little bit uncomfortable or be bored? Would you rather get your heart broken chasing your dreams or slowly let your heart get hard because you don't risk anything? So I decided, let's go ahead and get a broken heart. And it turns out that it didn't happen as much as I thought. And the more I jump out there, the more he's like, yes, okay, now we're moving. But Jesus asked the question, it's important. Last week, do you want to get well? Yes, please. I'll do what you need me to do. Let's do it. And then this week, okay, well, what exactly do you want me to do for you? And I think Jesus, he knew what they needed. a matter of fact, anybody in their area that heard the question knew that they needed their sight, but he wanted them to say it. I want to hear it. I want to know what you need. And I want you to imagine right now that Jesus comes through your village and you've heard of him. You've talked about him. You've read some things about him. You've been taught some songs about him. And you're very intrigued. You're curious and interested. And all of a sudden he comes to your village and he is a rock star. I mean, there's people are pressing against him and everybody's bringing the people that they want. Everybody wants something. They all have different desires. And every time he contacts somebody eye to eyeball, the rest of the world disappears and all he sees is you. Just imagine looking into the eyes of God. It's just like, and he stops just for me. And so here, I got to talk to somebody. There's somebody out there that's feeling like, man, he don't do that for me. He does it for everybody else. He don't do it for me. He doesn't answer my prayers. Not like he does. I had somebody tell me that today. And I tried to help him, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I want to challenge you to watch him in action. Okay, if you are convinced that he doesn't see me, I'm invisible to him, man, look at the Gospels. He is drawn to people that feel invisible, man. If you feel less than, if you feel weaker, if you feel jacked up, if you feel like, man, I don't got it anymore, you feel like I'm misunderstood, I'm lonely, you know, I'm whatever it is. Oh my gosh, he specializes in this, man. He walks past people that have it all together and he goes to the person that's really hurting and says, what do you want? Okay, so if he pulls right up to you and all of a sudden it's like, and you look into his eyes and he says gently, what do you want me to do for you? I want you to have an answer. And I want it to be what is real. He already knows it. He knew what he needed, but he wanted to hear him say it. And then don't miss this. He said he touched their eyes. He didn't have to do it like that. He could have just said, last week, all he said was pick up your mat and walk. He could do it like that. He didn't put his hands on the guy's legs. He didn't have to. But this time, he touched his eyes, like he got very personal. And I think when we dare to talk about the things that we're scared to talk about with him, and we dare to ask him for things that we're going to really, this is scary because I've been hurt by this. Every time I try to start hoping again, I get crushed. And so this is scary to me. Okay, when you get to that place, I think that's when Jesus gets very personal. And that's what you want. But he's going to touch you where it hurts. And so I would be talking to him about the things that hurt. And then go ahead and let him touch it, and when it starts getting hard, man, don't think this don't work for me. This ain't working. So you miss a few days and then you're guilty. And it's like, man, I never do anything right. And before you know it, something that was built to encourage you has now discouraged you. And you feel like, man, bump it. I'm not going to do it. And it's like, trust me, there's somebody out there that is having that conversation with themselves. And he's right there. Go ahead and write down as many as you want about anything you want. Start the dialogue. And then he's going to move. What exactly do you want? That's step 2. I wonder if anybody's started to roll onto their knees automatically because Uncle G's starting to get involved in the game. Johnny does. That's a strange little piece, man. Don't overlook it. If you're like, man, I ain't hit my knees. It's like, you don't have to, it's cool, but try it if you're physically able and watch how that one little gesture, it doesn't matter what you say. I think whatever I say I roll on my knees and say, oh man, help me out today, Lord. I love you. Be with me. Amen. Go to the bathroom. It's the act of submission. And just, I'm tired. Hey, good morning. Need you. Okay, but I gotta go. And so who cares what you say? It's that act of submission. He gets the first fruits of your mind and your body. Think about that. That's deep. And then you write down exactly what you want. And then you carry it with you throughout the day. And then you make a move toward it. Don't forget about it. And then you pay attention and watch for signs and write them down. And then when you mess up, straighten it out as quick as possible and then get grateful again. Number 7, so simple. So there's that. I wanted to introduce each week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a question and then of Jesus. And then I'm going to, kind of teach one point. So this one comes out of 1 Corinthians 2. This will blow your mind. It's in 1 Corinthians 2, beginning verse 9. He says, as it is written, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him, but God has revealed it to us by his Spirit. The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. For who among men knows the thoughts of man except the man's spirit within him? In the same way, no one knows the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. We have not received the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we may understand what God has freely given us. This is what we speak, not in words taught us by human wisdom, but in words taught by the Spirit, expressing spiritual truths in spiritual words. The man without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them because they are spiritually discerned. The spiritual man makes judgments about all things, but he himself is not subject to any man's judgment. For who has known the mind of the Lord that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. We have the mind of Christ. Do you feel like you do? Go ahead, raise your hand. Who's got one? Anybody feel like you have the mind of Christ? You need to start teaching this class. I will sit down. Sometimes, but it's crazy up there a lot of times. But think about everything he drops. He says, you can't, with your human brain, you can't even fathom what he's got prepared. Okay, don't even try. I tried to tell you streets of gold, a tree and a river and pearly gate. I mean, I'm just trying to tell you it's going to be awesome, but there's no way you can conceive it. And then he starts talking about the Spirit. And it's important. He says, the Spirit is the one that knows the mind of God. He knows what you need. He's there to advise you, counsel you, instruct you, comfort you, fight for you, open doors, close doors, remind you of things, give you the words to say. Don't resist him. Don't quench him. He's your power. Okay, now that you want him. That's the whole game right there. I mean, the Father is overall. Jesus has done his thing. And he said, now my Spirit, you're going to really dig him because he's going to do for you what I can't. I'm trapped in this body. He ain't. And so that's the whole thing. But then he says, basically, he's talking about discerning the deep things of God. When you tap into the Spirit who is already present, and we begin to uncover him from worry and shame and guilt and fear and woundedness and insecurity, and critical spirit and unforgiveness. It's like we're putting a bushel on the light. The light is the Spirit. We don't put a bushel on it. And so we start to unpeel the layers of these things that are covering up our essence, our source, our power. And then you start understanding things that there are things that God will teach you that you can't find in that book. Jesus, they said it. They said Jesus did so much stuff. There's not enough room in the world for all the books. So, I mean, this is what we need. It's the basics, man. This is all we need right there. But to think that God is done with all the things that he can give you, I mean, the wisdom that comes from the Spirit, the courage that comes from him, the ideas that come from him, the connections that he makes. I mean, sometimes everything's got to work just right, man. You got to stop at that red light. The train had to come at just the right time. You had to get in that traffic that really ticked you off, to walk in at just the right time as the elevator opens and the person that you need to see walks out. Do you know how many things had to happen to get you there in that 1 second so that your impossible prayer can show up? You don't got to worry about that all. I mean, he's got that. But this whole mind of Christ thing, I started thinking about it. And if the Spirit is going to lead us, we've got to be able to have some sort of relationship with him. And I don't think it has to be an invisible relationship that's like, I know he's there and he does some crazy things, but I don't get to know. It's like, no, there's a communion with the Spirit. And I started thinking, how would he communicate? Well, he communicates through the brain that God gave us. I started studying brain science. I mean, when I went on my journey, man, I studied everything. I think I already told you this, but I wanted to experience everything. And I took Jesus into mosques and temples and sweat lodge and ashrams and synagogues and cathedrals and prisons and crazy places and studied like crazy. I wanted to know physics and quantum mechanics and cosmology and just philosophy and Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam. Shoot, I accidentally became a Wiccan in one prison. I did. It was a situation where the Wiccans were beefing with the Muslims, and the Wiccans looked like a bunch of wolves, and they're a bunch of white guys look like wolves, and the Muslims typically happen to be brothers of color, and they don't get along much, and so they're all in my group. And I had learned how to say things. It'd be like, hey, I come in peace, and so my Jewish brothers, I say shalom. To my brothers of Islam, I say assalamu alaikum. To my Christian brothers, I say peace unto you. And I realized that I didn't have any greeting for the Wiccans. And so when we had a little break, I went over to him and I said, listen, I feel bad because I want to be able to encourage you in your way, but I don't know that way. And brother looked at me and he said, blessed be. I said, blessed be? Is that the way it works? He goes, blessed be. And I said, bet. And so the next morning I came and I said, shalom, peace be with you, assalamu alaikum. And I said, and blessed be. And the Muslims were pissed. so I had a little beef with the Muslims, but I worked that out. But afterwards, after that session, they came up to me and they were like, you moved us with your gesture. And so we would like to make you a kindred brother. And I'm like, hey, that sounds cool. And so they get around, I don't know what they're talking about. And so they get around me and they put one on me and they do this and another one. So it was like a wheel. And then all of a sudden they started talking and I'm like, uh-oh, and they're talking to their ancestors or whatnot. And I'm like, oh, snap. And so when we get done, they're hugging me and everything and they walk away and I'm like, dang, I think I just became a Wicked. And so I had to straighten it out. But anyway, I have no idea why I told you that story. Sometimes they just appear. But I'm sure I had a point. I have no idea what it was. So anyway, I started thinking, okay, this brain is this 3.5 pound universe that's 100 billion neurons connected in a quadrillion number of ways. And it's just teeming with electromagnetic chemical energy and allows you to do everything you are doing right now. I mean, there's nothing that can even compete with this organ. I mean, it's the only brain that can imagine things in the future. I mean, that is so huge. Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. It's like to be able to see a thing. My dog can't do that. My dog remembers what happened yesterday and he stays in the moment, right here, but he's not thinking about what we're going to do next week. He doesn't have that capacity in his brain. And so God gave us this amazing creation machine. And I started figuring out, all right, if I figure out how that works, then maybe I can develop a fertile soil to be able to communicate with the Spirit. So like I want to be very receptive if he's trying to communicate with me. And it's anyway. So I went to work on it, but I'm teaching it in prisons and high schools and different places where I've got to dumb it down a little bit, even younger kids. And so I created a character. And throughout this little series, we're going to be talking about Uncle G. And so that's what the character I created for my brain is Uncle G. And I said, he's the original Google. He can take you. I mean, he can figure out, you ask him the right questions. He knows how to get there. He's the original GPS. You just plug in your desires, man. They're like coordinates on a dang GPS. I just plug in the right coordinates and then listen to the voice takes me there. The brain knows how to get you where you need to go. but he's the original gangster if you don't pay attention to him. I mean, he will run things, and he ain't supposed to run things. You know, Paul said, take every thought captive. All right, you got 50,000 thoughts that race through your mind every day. He wants you standing porter at the door and saying, whoa, Jack, you don't get to come in here, and you quarantine, delete, erase, replace. It's like, I'm not going to think like that anymore. Now that's a game in itself. You know, you win, you lose, but you get involved in the conversation in the head, because Uncle G not supposed to be running things. He's not, he doesn't have a brain. He is a brain. Okay, he's an organ, just like a liver, a lung, you know, a kidney, pancreas. The brain, though, is a beast. He's a learning machine. Okay, so ever since you've been conscious, this brain that God gave you, which is maybe unlimited in its capabilities. We don't even know if there's a limit to it. It's just learning how to utilize it and command it and manage it. You know, our phones, in a lot of cases, they run us. People obey those phones. When it dings, you know, we went to the beach last week, and me and my wife say, no phones on vacation, no text, no email, no social media. We're serious about it, man. No phone call. Everybody needs to know we're unplugged unless it's 911. And so what we do is create space for Uncle G to relax and have fun. And we walk down the beach, and we would look, and there's couples, and it's Sandestin. It's one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And people are like this, they're missing the ocean, they're missing the sand, they're missing their kids, they're missing everything. And they're looking at the same things they look at when they're at home and wondering why they're not refreshed when they get back. They didn't go on vacation. They took that dang device. You know, the device rules them. That's what most people do with the brain. Okay, so there's two types of people on the call tonight. There's those today that were used by their brain, and those that use their brain. All right, who's in charge? Who's the master? So we have the spirit. We're supposed to observe that brain and get involved. I mean, he needs to obey us. But if we're not paying attention, he's a learning machine. Okay, so everything that you watched, listened to, read, conversations you had, daydreaming, you know, video games, water talk, water cooler talk, I don't care. Experience, everything you experience today and all the information you consume today, Uncle G is paying attention to what you're paying attention to. And whatever you give the most attention to, he decides that it is life and death, and he wraps a habit around it. That's why, you know, I tried to go to the movies with my son. We ended up at Starbucks. I didn't even try. I didn't tell Uncle G to go to Starbucks. He knows I like go there. And so it was like, you know, I mean, why do you do that? Because I've taught him over time. That's what I do. Uncle G's like, good. I want you to worry about that. I got that, boss. You think about more important stuff. I'll get you where you need to go. And so he's done that with everything. So the habits that you've developed, they're either serving you and giving you more power and more wisdom, more productivity, more life, or they're a detriment to you, and they're making you less powerful and less productive and less alive. Instead of getting all tripped out and judgmental and shame, why don't you just say, all right, it's time to establish some new habits. That's all. Uncle G will respond to whatever you give him. That's why they say it takes about 30 days to establish a new habit. That's about how long it takes. I wanted to add 10 days and say 40 because God digs number 40. It's the number of transformation through trial and testing. And so 40 days is plenty to establish a new habit. Break one and replace it with a new one. You get on your knees 40 days in a row. Try not to do it on day 41. You write down your prayers and review them every day. You probably will not stop doing that after the 40 days is over. You know, when you start to look for God and recognize and write down, Uncle G decides after 30, 40 days, it's important for me to pay attention to things that remind him of God. Just like if I'm in the market for a Jeep Grand Cherokee bronze sports package, all of a sudden I start seeing them around. It's like, dang, why are those around me? They've been around me. Uncle G didn't know that I cared about them. And so he wasn't bringing them into my attention. Are you following me? And so all of a sudden you start focusing on new habits, and Uncle G does the rest, and you reinforce it. And now all of a sudden you're coming alive. And so the part where you start looking for God and repenting quickly, not getting all jacked up, and then staying in a state of gratitude, which is very fertile soil for the spirit to work. He loves gratitude. Then you just start paying attention. I've been doing it for a number of years. This particular one is a very special one. And I've done I've done a lot of these. I always have one going. This one is very special. I'm not sure what's happened. You know, if maybe I'm just getting more in the slot. I don't think I'm any more righteous than I've ever been. I mean, I'm a knucklehead. I got my struggles, same ones you do probably. But I've moved into a new space now where, and I think it's the space of expectation, where I really expect for something to happen. And then if he wants to change my mind, I know he can. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's good at that. I mean, I might think it's him and he might have to put 3 doors in front of me because I'll kick him down. And he's saying, no, I close the doors I want to close. I want you going that way. And so it becomes a rhythm. Have you guys heard of well, let me finish this. He's a learning machine. He's a storyteller. All right. He is built to tell stories. And if you don't give him new information, he'll tell the same stories he told yesterday, today. Many, many people today had the same 40 to 50,000 thoughts as they had yesterday. Same material. And they had the same 10,000 to 15,000 words come out of their mouth as they did yesterday. Same ones, same material, same cast, same family, same people you work with, same people you go to church with, same everything. It's boxes going from one box to another, and Uncle G gets it on lock. And you're wondering what's wrong with my relationship with God. Well, ain't nothing new. I mean, Uncle G's doing the same thing every day because that's what you taught him to do. So for 40 days in a row, you get his attention and you say, I am in command now. Here's what we're going to do. Hit your knees, Uncle G. And then after 30, 40 days, he'll do it on his own. He knows you got that. When it becomes a habit, it's in your subconscious, and that's where we live. Your goals and your dreams and your wishes and your desires are all great, but your habits are 100 times more powerful than your desires. Because Uncle G is going to hold on to something that he thinks is important because he's a survival machine. At his core, he's built to keep you alive, not to make you happy. Happiness comes from the spirit. Joy and love, all that stuff comes from the spirit. The brain just tries to keep you alive. And so he's going to lay down heavy track on things that are traumatic, things that scare you, things that make you feel great, things that, exhilarate you. Goosebumps are really cool for him. It's like he's going to figure out what's important, and then he's going to hold on until you make him let go of the habits that you've taught him. So the things that you struggle with, instead of saying, man, the devil's all over me, I'm like, hold up. Is the devil omniscient? Does he know all things? Nope, he's a fallen angel. Is he omnipresent? Can he be more than one place at one time? He's a fallen angel, one place at one time. Is he all powerful? Can he, anything he wants, can he make it happen? He's a fallen angel. It's like, do you really think he dropped everything that he had going on in Fallujah and flew to your closet today and tried to get you to struggle with something with your husband? It's like the devil is all over me. Really? He's focusing on you. He's put the one spot on the planet he's at. Is at your house? Really? It's like, come on, man. Why don't we simplify it and say, no, the deal is you've been doing this thing over and over and over and over and over, and Uncle G's got it on lock. You're going to have to establish some new habits. The same moves aren't working. And so, man, it ain't if the devil comes to, I rode with the devil for a minute. I'm kind of convinced. I think I saw him a couple of times, but it. So anyway, Uncle G. So we're going to be talking about, I'll close with this. And then Ruben, we can do as much or as little as you want as far as sharing questions, whatever. You probably heard of the 5 love languages, right? It's a huge best-selling book. I think it makes a lot of sense. I figured out my wife's quality time, physical touch, period, point blank. I can bring her flowers every day and she'll say thank you and it'll make her feel pretty good. I can do acts of service, clean up the house, do whatever. And that she appreciates that, makes her feel good, but it's not her basic need. You know what I'm saying? Words of affirmation. She doesn't need that. I mean, it's like she doesn't need that. But when I do it, it makes her feel good. But quality time and physical touch, oh man, it's easy. Once I know that, then I can make her very happy. and she loved me to death, right? I'm speaking her love language. And so sometimes we're speaking Chinese because it's like, man, she don't appreciate anything I do. It's like, she don't want the stuff you're doing, bro. And so you try to figure her out. And here's what I would propose. Now, this is one of Kit's goofy ideas. It's not thus saith the Lord. You can't do a study on it. But what if you have a love language with God? All right, mine is words of affirmation. I need it. It ain't weak. It's just the way he made me. It's like, man, you encourage me, I'll run through a freaking wall for you. You know what I'm saying? It's that, period. And acts of service make me feel really good. You know, I think it makes me feel respected or something. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I've got basic needs, but that first one is big. So in my relationship with the Spirit, okay, why wouldn't it be kind of connected to that? It's the way that I experience love. And I you know, it's because the way that you got it growing up is what you believe love is. And so if your father always gave you toys to make you feel loved, well, gifts mean a lot to you when you're 50, right? Or if dad, you know, gave you hugs, man, he's very physical. Well, you need that. You need your partner to be very loving and touching, and you know, there's just different ways. I think that in a relationship with God, the nature that you have is important. And so if your thing is gifts, what if you figure out ways to give God gifts? You know, this is for you today. I'm doing this for you. It's a love language. If it's quality time, well, then you got to carve out some time and take him someplace special, you know, just for him. And, you know, get that quality time. If it's, you know, words of affirmation, all right, speak to him like that. You know, praise the Holy Spirit, man. Just, you know, just really just express everything. I mean, it'll feel weird talking to the Holy Spirit, but why would it? It doesn't make any sense. I think certain churches kind of ruined a bunch of things, and now we're afraid of being in this zone where it's like, and it's like, man, it's a beautiful place to be. So that's a little homework, I guess, is this week, pay attention to what you're paying attention to, and don't bring guilt and shame into it. Just recognize it and go, okay, right now, Uncle G is learning that this is important. Is this what I want to be teaching him? You know, do the steps, and these things will begin to become a nature to you. And then you can start getting real creative with it. You know what I'm saying? Looking for certain things. And then it'll blow your mind when you start seeing miracles. But I think we have to prepare the brain to find the things that we're looking for. Those are the signs. And then prepare the brain to start recognizing thoughts when they show up that are ideas, epiphanies, suggestions, nudges from the Spirit. Start paying attention to the thoughts that show up, and then take captive thoughts that are taking away your power. You know what I'm saying? You got to get involved in the conversation. We find what we look for. So anyway, that's kind of my thing for tonight. And then we can go where Ruben wants to go next.